22, I don't want to get to 25 and not have anything to look forward to when I'm 30 because I've done everything already. Beyonce has the same 24 hours in a day that we do. And I just think like it's literally, you're given one life and it's down to you what you do with it. I work, I spend time with my boyfriend and I go to bed. That is literally my life. The things I've done now are not because of Love Island, they're because of me.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm talking about something like slightly different. I feel like my channel is a bit all over the place anyway. I talk about lots of different random things. But today I want to talk about Molly Mae. If you don't know who Molly Mae is, if you're not from the UK or if you're not even into like Instagram life like that, to be honest, in the UK, you might not know who she is. But she became really popular from Love Island. The show about people going on an island in Spain and finding love, that one, yeah. But she became really popular from that. And since then she's gone on to do like really amazing things, but I'm not a fan. Like, I don't care for her. Oh gosh, that sounds really terrible. I'm not a mean person, I promise, but I don't really care for her like that. Like, it's just like she's not my cup of tea. When she came on Love Island, it's like, okay, another blonde girl on the island, cool, let's keep it moving. Yeah, I think actually after watching this video I have a more positive opinion of her than I initially did. It's quite a long interview, so I'm not gonna make it too long. We'll just like cut like different bits of it. I'll put the interview links down in the description box as well, so you can go and have a look for yourself as well and watch the full thing. Okay, all right, let's get into it.
Hitching, that's where you grew up, right? Take me back to Hitching. What was life like when you were
Hitching? I actually still am extremely fond of Hitching, and it's a really special place for me. I spent 18 years there, growing up in a very normal house with a very normal family, doing very normal things in a very normal school, not a private school or anything. It was just an extremely normal area to live in. I loved it, and I got my first job there. I had a lot of firsts there, and I think it will always hold a special place in my heart. Both parents were in the police, so that was interesting growing up. Something else that I'm really proud of, actually, having two parents that are police officers, because I don't know, I quite liked it at school, like sort of being known as the police officer's kid. Like I kind of liked it. No one really messed with me. It was quite, like even at parties, like I think even a couple of times my dad actually, I remember one time my dad actually showed up to shut a party down that I was at.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing, having parents as police officers, but I didn't mind it.
Just there as well, I'm gonna stop and say that I think I found some tweets where people were saying how, that it was a bit weird that her dad's police officer. I don't know, they tried to make that seem, I don't know, somehow, I don't know. Personally, there's nothing wrong with working in the police force. Like, we need police officers, good ones, obviously. So yeah, I don't find anything weird about that. Obviously, like, her parents are going to be normal. If you're not from a super rich background, your parents are going to have normal jobs. The one thing that I want to say as well is that if you don't know Hitching, I feel like she's trying to play it down that Hitching is some type of like small town. It is a small town, but Hitching is literally one of the best places to live in the UK. Two is one of the most expensive places to live in Hertfordshire. So it is pretty expensive around here. It is not cheap by any stretch. There's people with different varying ranges of like incomes and stuff here, obviously, but for the most part this is a really affluent area. So don't take that as, you know, I'm poor. People in Hitching are rich. People in Hitching, no, people in Hitching, they got money. Okay.
Oh god, I mean, I always wanted to be doing something different. I mean, I went to fashion school for 2 years because I really wanted to pursue a career in fashion. All my friends sort of stayed on and went to sixth form and college, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something outside the box. So I had an interview at the Fashion Retail Academy in London, and I got a spot there, and I ended up going there for 2 years.
It does give her a little bit of credibility just saying that she went to some fashion school in London. I think just already from her growing up, you can see that she had a different mindset. Lots of people who, you know, end up like this, they tend to have started from really young, where you can sort of see that kind of spark in them from the beginning. And obviously her going out of her way to do something different from what her peers or friends were doing at the time, obviously that I felt like that sort of said something like, this one definitely, it seemed like she had her head on good in like her early years.
I think for me, watching my parents have a very ordinary life, it sort of petrified me a bit. It was like a bit terrifying, this thought of, I don't want to grow up in this house, and when I'm old in my rocking chair, like tell my grandkids, you know, like I had this really ordinary life and I had an ordinary job, I had an ordinary income, like that. It petrified me from, I think I reckon I started feeling that way from about 50. My parents having this very ordinary job. Like, I mean, police officer, it's not necessarily that ordinary, but for me, it was like, it just terrified me. I was like, I don't want to have this life in Hitchin forever. I know that there's so much more to achieve. And I moved to Manchester when I was 18. and started my life there. I just moved out. I literally said to my mum one day, I walked down into the living room, I'll never forget it, and I said, I found this flat on Rightmove and I'm moving to Manchester. And she was like, no, you're not. I was like, no, I'm going. She was like, you don't have enough money. I was like, I'll find it. Like, I'll make this work. And I literally went within a week and I was gone. I packed all my stuff up and I just left.
The way she saw her parents' life, I don't know, I'm not sure that it doesn't speak well. Do you know what I mean? Like, to see your parents who worked so hard, obviously, to give you a life. The fact that she just saw that sad.
I sort of started to grow a following on Instagram, and it was growing quite rapidly. And I'd found a management in Manchester, so I just thought, I'm just going to go up there and just see what happens. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And all sort of the fast fashion companies and everything was in Manchester at that point. It became like the new place to be.
Very interesting that as well, because she mentioned fast fashion. I'm glad she knows about fast fashion, you know, because sometimes one of these influencers, we keep telling them about like fast fashion. They're like, you know, pretending that, you know, it's not an issue, but it is. So interesting that she mentioned that there, and I don't think Steve picked up on it.
What have you learned about the nature of like confidence and how it builds, and how capable and how, you know, powerful your potential really is as you've climbed up the ladder?
I think it is just believing in that. Beyonce has the same 24 hours in a day that we do. And I just think like it's literally, you're given one life and it's down to you what you do with it. Like, you can literally go in any direction. And
yeah, this is a big moment in the show where she mentioned how we all have the same 24 hours in a day. My opinion on that is, again, not similar to most other people's opinions, but I think technically speaking, we don't all have the same 24 hours in a day. Time goes by, and the time that goes by isn't necessarily equivalent to the amount of time that we have. And I'm going to explain. First thing is that if, for example, I drive to work, it takes me 25 minutes to drive into work, whereas when I used to get the train, it used to take me an hour, 50 minutes to an hour. That's already 25 minutes or so that I've saved in my day that someone else who can't afford to buy a car can't have. That's one. If you have a babysitter, for example, you're married or you're single partner, whatever, you've got kids, and you have a babysitter, right? Someone who can look after your kids, your mom, your uncle, your husband, whoever, right? You have a partner, someone who can look after your kids for you, so you can go away and do something else. That is time that you're getting. If you're paying for the babysitter, money actually affords you to be able to buy time of people, buy time of cleaners, buy time of drivers, buy time of personal assistants, buy time in general. But I do get where she's coming from. She is very driven, and I also came to a point maybe like last year where I came to the same conclusions. You know, I was like, life is short, man. Life is short. I like the enjoyment side of life. I like the relax and do absolutely nothing. I don't want to be booked and busy all the time. I just want to relax and sleep. Whereas I also know that I have an opportunity to do something different with my life. Technically, like, everybody can make something good of your life, and you don't have to start big. You don't have to go and become on Love Island or whatever. It could be something small, and just having that fundamental mindset of thinking, oh, actually, if I can, I can try. If I can, and your ability, you know, the people's abilities are different depending on what your skill set is, depending on what your financial circumstances are. Everybody's abilities and what their success or their good or their life change is not $1 million. It's not going to be £1 million. It could be £100. It could be £2,000. So it's just seeing that and saying, okay, I want something different for myself, which I think is the message that she's saying here, is looking at your life and saying, I want something different. If you're not happy with how it is, and then going for it. I think that's what she was trying to say, which I didn't find any issues with. But technically, we don't all have the same 24 hours in a day. Okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself to be, at that age especially, a confident person?
Yeah, I've always been extremely confident. I've never ever struggled with my confidence. Like, even meeting new people, trying new things. Like, I've never felt unconfident in any situation, which I'm really blessed to have that. Like,
Molly Mae, I'm sorry, she's maximizing her privileges, putting them to work. Okay, being confident is one thing, but looking a certain way and coming in with that confidence is another thing. But yeah, she's really maximizing her privileges, because to look like that as she does now, to have that, you know, blonde girl, sorry I have to keep mentioning it, but you know, we just have to do it. To work in the industry that you do, look like that, be switched on and have that confidence is gold, right? So you can have the confidence, be switched on and driven all you want, and not look like that, and you probably wouldn't go as far. So yeah, I'm really glad that she mentioned that confidence. But then I just wanted to mention as well that it's not just about confidence. Sometimes it's having that privilege of how you look and how you carry yourself in general.
My book is called Happy Sexy Millionaire because at 18 I wrote in my diary, bear in mind I was living in Moss Side and didn't have a driving license. A Range Rover Sport will be my first car. I'll make $1 million before I'm 25. I'll have a girlfriend and I'll have a six-pack, basically, right?
Love that.
That's my life goals. 25,
Brilliant.
24, I'm driving a Range Rover Sport. I'm a millionaire, whatever.
Amazing.
And then that anti-climax of getting there.
Yes.
This like feeling of, where's the marching band and the confetti? Like, I thought
it's a huge anticlimax, isn't it? It's mental. Like, don't get me wrong, it's incredible to reach your goals, but it is a little bit you know when you hear people, the richest people in the world, and they say you're not happy though because you have all this money. You think, yeah, you are happy. Like, of course you are. You've got all this money, but they're probably not, because it really actually doesn't mean anything. All of that stuff. Your happiness comes from within and the people around you and your life. It doesn't come from how much money you have in your bank and what car you drive.
Glad that she talks about that. I mean, she does seem to be saying the right things, and I do hope that she feels the same way. We tend to put people who have a certain type of money and sometimes it's not a lot of money. It could just be like the money that we want to have or would like to have on a certain type of pedestal. And think that, you know, when you have a certain amount of money that you will be this happy or whatever. But honestly, it really doesn't. I know it's such a cliche thing. Money is just money, and happiness isn't necessarily attached to money. So yeah, I'm kind of glad they talk about that, although it is kind of cliche.
Have you got a lot of friends?
No, I don't. That's a blunt question. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's such a funny way to start a question. Like, I would feel attacked if someone just asked me, "Have you got a lot of friends?" I'm like, "Oh, bruh, do I need to think about my life? What's going on?" But yeah, she said no. She said no.
There's lots of fun questions here.
Straight up, no, I don't. My circle is minuscule. I have literally about 5 people in my circle, and that includes friends. I have acquaintances and I have people in my life that I say are my friends, but my circle is absolutely tiny, and I like it that way. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm not bothered about a social life. It's never been something that I've been interested in. I don't know if you know, but I don't really drink, I don't party, I don't go out, but that is just because I actually don't enjoy it. It's not for me. I'd rather just focus on making money, being successful and being happy. That's friends, they come and go. And I find it a bit of a waste of time.
I feel like I do kind of get where she's coming from in a weird way. Just looking at some of the people in that sort of limelight side of things that I follow on social media, like from Love Island and everything, they seem to just want to like dress a certain way, go out and take pictures and show that, you know, it's that Instagram life, isn't it? To show that you're out and you've got friends and stuff like that. I can find how she might think that those sort of conversations and those sort of things might be a bit redundant. I really do feel like, you know, having a good circle of friends is really important in life. But I will say there's a bit of like reality there as well, because people talk to their partners, their boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, more than they talk to any other person in their life, more than they talk to their family, more than they talk to parents, brothers, sisters, friends. Most people, married or not married, most people talk to their partners more than they talk to anybody else, and that is just a simple truth. Because there's a certain sort of, I don't know, I think it's just, you know, they say, you know, you leave your man and whatever, your family, and go and join to a man or woman, or I don't know, all of that jazz. But if everybody's going to be really honest, you know that you talk to your boyfriend more than you talk to everybody else. So let's just leave it like that, okay?
More friends.
No, it's time consuming. Like, trying to make people happy. Like, I've lost a lot of friends, but since coming off Love Island, because I don't have the time. And in the end, I just say, do you know what? Look, like, I'd rather focus on the things that are actually going to elevate me. And it sounds savage, but sometimes friends, they just not cling on, but they don't add much.
Add value,
yeah.
Yeah, I think she needs better friends, to be honest. She does need better friends. It's an interesting conversation about friendships. I have a lot of thoughts around it, but I don't think my thoughts are well formed. I do get what she's saying, where if you, again, going back to those Instagram friendships where you just take pictures, you're just there to take pictures and you're not really talking about anything, they're not really helping you do anything in your life, it can feel like that. So I do get what she's saying. However, I think obviously for people who are watching her and who do look up to her, I don't think that people should take that, you know, as gospel, because I think good friendships are really, really good, and having stable people in your life. But then she does say she have a small circle, doesn't mean she doesn't have any friends. She just have, she said actually later on, like 3 or something like that, which I think is actually a good amount. You don't need to have too many friends. I feel like with social media there's a bit of something that I felt as well, a certain pressure to have, you know the girls that you go out with, like a good group of girlfriends or guy friends or whatever that you go out with and do like really fun stuff with as young people, but you don't need that. So it's interesting. I do feel like she covers up the lack of friendships in her life. From my perspective, this is what I'm seeing, by focusing on her business and her money, which is like, okay, that's not necessarily a negative thing, but maybe it kind of is. I don't know, but...
I don't want to talk too much about it because I think everybody understands the show and the concept of it. When you first were presented with the opportunity, what was your incentive for saying yes?
Well, it's tricky. I've always struggled with how to talk about it because, put it this way, I didn't go on that show to find love.
Well, fair enough. She said what she said. What can you say? I feel like I kind of agree with her. You can tell that most people are there just for the show and to sort of elevate themselves. And then obviously, if, you know, it somehow possibly sort of works out, then they find love in the process.
But yeah, I remember that they came forward and I just thought, at the time my influencing was going really well. And there was actually a side of me that thought, I can actually do this without going on this show. Like, I know I'll be fine either way. My following was growing rapidly. Like, I think I was about 170,000 followers at that point, and that was all organic growth. There was no TV shows or anything, and I hadn't had any friends of large followings that sort of posted me. It was all very natural growth. So I knew I'd say now that if I hadn't gone on the show, I'd like to say I'd be hitting 1 million followers.
That's a really good number. 170,000 followers on Instagram on your own without anything. And back in the day,
the show just it just elevated me. And then I think one thing I always say is that when you come off that show, you're all on a level playing field and it's totally up to you where you go with it. And I just knew that I wanted to go just to levels that no one had ever gone to. And that's why I never really speak about it, because I just feel like I don't owe it. That's not the reason why I am where I am now. Yeah, it gave me a platform. Yeah, it elevated me. But
I think a lot of people who are always trying to not belittle, but they're trying to pinpoint where your success comes from. I think if you remember the girl with, I can't remember the skin condition, but I shouldn't call her by a skin condition. She's a model. She was on America's Next Top Model. And she also had the same thing where she was like, you know, people don't understand that America's Next Top Model didn't make her who she is. A lot of people, have this same idea or mentality that if you're on a massive platform like Love Island or America's Next Top Model, that once you come out, like, your life is fully made. Yes, it does give you, like, I think the platform and a lot of eyes are on you. The fact that people know you does not mean that you're doing well. It just means that people know you. And unless you transfer that, you know, popularity, so to speak, into something else, which is what Molly Mae was doing or ended up doing, it's just people know you. That's literally all that it is. I do understand how people can sometimes, you know, want to come and say things like, oh, you're so lucky. Of course you're lucky, like things worked out for you. And I think that sometimes that is something that it's comforting for you to tell someone that, because it justifies the fact that, you know, maybe things didn't necessarily work out for you in the way that you want. And I think this conversation on success is very interesting in general, because success isn't one thing. Success isn't necessarily just pure by privilege, because a lot of people have privilege of looking a certain way, which I mentioned about Molly Mae. People have, you know, privilege of being from a certain background and certain, whatever you want to, you know, put it down to. But sometimes, a lot of times, success comes from drive, but success doesn't just come from drive. Success sometimes can also be luck, being at the right place at the right time. But then okay, yes, fair enough, you might be at the right place at the right time, but if you haven't prepared yourself to have the necessary skills, if you're at the right place at the right time and you don't have the right skills, nothing is going to come out of it.
Drill down on that point then. So you're completely right. Love Island is a platform, but it's super clear that if you look at the outcome of everybody that's been on that platform, the results are wildly varying. And you're part of that platform.
Yeah.
But what's happened to you subsequently after you've been on that show is unprecedented. There's not been another example of someone who has risen so high following being involved in that platform.
Yeah.
So what is it about you and, you know, your character, your, you know, whatever it might be, I don't want to put the answer in your mouth. What is it about you that's caused that?
So many different things, but I think I knew the minute I came off that show that I just wanted to do crazy things. And one thing for me is that when I reach one goal, it's what can I achieve next? It's never enough for me. And I think it's a bit of a downside to my personality, because when I achieve something incredible, I just want more. I always want more. Like, I remember I was speaking to Fran about this. I was like, I remember when my goal was, I really want to get £1 million in my bank account. That's all I wanted to do. I was like, that is my goal. And then the minute I reached it, I was like, well, I want 2 now. I want 2 million. And it's like, I never am happy with.
Sorry, what? 2 million in the bank? Now that's not, listen, there's a difference between revenue and profit. So, and there's a difference between revenue, profit, and how much you have in your accounts, right? For you to have 2 million British sterling pounds, I mean, pound sterling, whichever way that it goes, that is a lot of money. And wow, yeah, I don't even know what to say about that one, because that is crazy. I will say as well, just at the beginning of that clip just there, obviously Stephen as well was like, you know, lots of people who come off of Love Island, there's lots of blonde people who are pretty as well, who've come out of, you know, pretty looking, who come out of Love Island, who haven't done anything that Molly Mae has done. Yes, okay, you might want to excuse her success for something else, but then look at her and look at other people who have come off of the platform and that look like her, and you know, they're not really giving what they're supposed to give. But yeah, I think there's also something slightly maybe unhealthy there that she might need to, you know, look into, because sorry babes, but why exactly would you want more like that? Like, there's a certain level of insatiable quest for success.
How would you be happy and satisfied and content whilst always striving to have more and more and more? And once you get to that mountaintop, or what you thought was the mountaintop,
you're constantly
they call
looking.
it like a false peak in climbing, where you get to that bit and then you look up and there's more to go. And so how do you find the happiness amongst and amidst the climb?
I'm working on that, I think, because even recently, like, we moved into a new place, we moved into this new house, and I've realised I've actually got a bit of a problem with it, because I was like, this house is literally a dream. It's a dream, but it's not enough for me, because I still want more. Like, I still want a bigger house, I still want bigger things, and it's like, I need to work on that, because you do need to find that happiness, because, you know, 16, 17-year-old me is screaming at the things I'm doing right now, and I'm still like, it's not enough.
But I think that's life as well. I also don't want to be hypocritical and say that, because this is a natural human behavior that we'll get one thing and we're constantly looking to another one. I had a bit of a moment like yesterday, like my sister messaged me like if I'm planning on coming to Paris, because she's planning on going to Paris. And I just thought, rah, I'm so sorry. Like, you know, someone messages me, are you coming to Paris? And I'm like, I'll be there if you're gonna be there. Do you get how mad that is? It is so insane. It is so insane. Like, obviously it's not the same level of what she's talking about. This is like the broker level, but still, like, for someone else, it's like, oh my God, in my mind, I'm just like, that is so sick to me. Like, and there's still places in my life that I'm like, oh my God, there are things that I still want to achieve and I'm still looking out for more. So then, is it maybe hypocritical of me to say that about her? And so many of us, like, you buy a house, you buy a car, you get a job, you have your first child, you want another one, you want another one, you want another one, but never happy. And I think it's a natural human trait.
Speaking there about social media, and you know, one of the changes you made, and you've talked about this publicly, is you removed the cosmetic filler from your face, right?
Yeah.
And other things, other sort of changes to your sort of cosmetic appearance. Can you talk to me first about what it was that made you want to go and get cosmetic filler in your face?
Well, I think...
Well, you're clearly very beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, I was 16 or 17 when I first got filler. And 16, if it was, I think is actually illegal.
That's really young. That's really, 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 really young. I'm just gonna say out the back. I think she looks so much better.
I think you have to be 17 legally. But I went and got lip filler when I was around 16, and it didn't stop for a few years. I kept getting it and I kept getting it, and it became, around that time was when it had become very normalized on social media. As I said before, I was seeing all these girls with filler and with all these things done to their faces. So I thought, well, if I want to be successful in that industry, if I want to be an influencer and I want to have a large following, I'm going to have to get that too.
It's interesting that she felt that way. I feel like sometimes people think, also, I think what I said about money, people feel the same way about beauty. When we see people who look a certain type of way, we think, oh, surely, like, you know, you have everything going for you and you don't need to, you know, prove yourself or do anything too much. But it's interesting that, you know, mentally she still felt like she had to give herself some fillers and do some jobs, and some of them were actually quite bad, to actually fit in and do, well, to work in the industry that she's working in.
Face, and literally everyone used to call me Quagmire. I don't even know who Quagmire is. I think it's like a cartoon character.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, people would either
Quagmire
say
on the screen.
Yeah, Quagmire. People used to say Quagmire, or they said I looked like an Xbox controller, like my face was that warped, like I got all kinds of things. But there was this one pivotal moment where I'd gone and I'd got loads of filler, and I posted a YouTube video. It was horrendous. It was utterly horrendous. It was like, you can insert the picture, we'll send it to you. It was, my face was literally like, it was just awful. And that was a moment for me as well, where I was like, I think things need to change.
Yeah, that was really bad. Like, oh yeah, I don't want to see that again. That was terrible. Yeah, she looks so much better. She looks 22. She looks young. Like, she looks youthful. I feel like people who are younger, myself, you know, back in the day, a little bit, trying to, even till now, sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I look too young. But I'm not gonna look this young forever. I mean, I'm black, so I'm probably gonna look this young until I'm 40. But never mind. But, you know, we're not going to look young forever. I think there's a certain pressure on younger girls to prove themselves, especially when you're doing things like this. I've definitely felt that way because I've always been the youngest woman, youngest person everywhere, and ever, whatever, anything I'm doing. So I've always felt like a certain way about making sure that I look a little bit older so that people don't, you know, look down on me. And for hers, obviously, you're working in the beauty industry, so you want to look, you know, a little bit more like, you know, like what the girls, you know, are looking like. But she said it's all editing. So yeah, that was a really bad picture. And I thought she looked, even then when she came on Love Island, her face was so square. I didn't understand why she had such a square face. But she, well, some people have square faces, I don't know. But she doesn't. She's really pretty. Like, she looks really good in this, and she doesn't have to. She has probably just round about similar makeup as I do now, and she looks really good. So I'm really happy that she decided to let go of all of that.
Imposter syndrome. When people rise very, very quickly into high places, they often talk about this feeling of imposter syndrome where they, you know, inside them, maybe they're still that girl from Hitching, but they're in these like big rooms with these big things talking about big ideas. And do you ever feel that?
I guess I'm extremely honest when I need to ask questions when I don't understand what the hell's going on.
I'm happy for her that she doesn't really feel imposterous in that way, but also at the same time, she did talk about like being very confident. It also speaks about the people who she hangs around with and the people who she works with. People like money, and people will hang around money. People will hang around you and forgive a lot of things if they feel like you bring in a certain amount of money for them. So there's probably a little bit of that. As you can imagine, you have a lot of celebrities, younger, older, who really start businesses. They don't really know that much about businesses, but they start it anyway. They have a massive fan base and employ lots of people who do know what they're talking about to do all of the business side of things for them. So yeah, I think that's mostly what's going in. So I feel like, yes, fair enough. Yeah, you might, if you're someone who tends to feel imposterous, you might feel imposterous in those circumstances. But I feel like at the same time, like people around you, when you have money or have the capacity to bring in money, people can be quite forgiving with how much you know or don't know, if that makes sense.
I'm really transparent now. I'll be in finance meetings with Fran and we'll be talking about gross profit. And I say, can we just...
I'm sorry, but if you don't know what net gross profit is, she is currently the, you know, creative director at PLT. And again, when that job came up, like that she got the job, it was like, yeah, you definitely didn't earn it, babes. That's what people were saying, because she is only 22. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's obviously not my opinion. My opinion doesn't really matter because she is what she is, and that is the director of PLT, okay? But I don't know, a part of me, and I struggle with this in general, one part of me is like, oh, I love that for you. Like, you know, I love to see that companies, like directors don't necessarily have to be old men in suits or young men in suits even, who know all these different terms and will talk around all these different topics and all of this. And most of the time they're kind of bullshitting anyway. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? So I love that for her. I love that PLT is going in the younger direction, blah, 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 blah. But also at the same time, I'm just like, oh, but does that then mean that you haven't really earned this job? I feel like she is a brand herself, and she has said that in this video that she is a brand. So it's like, I think it's more like, oh, you are a brand, so they've just really hired you because you're a brand, and just you being there in general brings you know, a certain type of attention to the company, which is what some people have been saying. But then again, I don't know what exactly is a creative director. What do they do? So yeah, I mean, it's directing creativity, I guess. And if she does have that brain to be able to see, which she has said that, you know, even from when Love Island days, when they just hired her to do like an influencer job, and you know, remember the first Molly Mae edits after she came out of Love Island, which was quite like everywhere really. She's always like been having inputs about like, okay, I want this done this way, I want this done this way. So she's always had that eye, and she did go to fashion school, I think she said, in London when she was 17. So she has that eye for fashion. So who am I to then say, you know, again, I'm trying to check myself and check that thing in my mind that is always trying to belittle people's achievements, because that's something that we do a lot. So I don't know. She is 22, but then I'm very young, and a lot of things that I do, and a lot of I struggle with this so much. Like I applied for a job yesterday, and I thought to myself, oh my god, like the people who I know who are doing this job, like they're well in their 40s, and I'm going to be doing this, like do I have enough years under my belt? And I'm like, well, actually, can I do the job? The answer is yes. So yeah, that's where I am. Sorry, that's a bit of a rant, but that's where I am. And I feel like, yeah, we as people, we're constantly trying to belittle people's achievements. And it's bad vibes, really. Myself as well, it's bad vibes. We need to do better, okay?
I have no idea what we're talking about here. And I'm really, really transparent with that. Like, I tried to just remember, I am 22. They didn't teach me this stuff in school.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, she doesn't know what they're talking about. Does that not then mean that you're not qualified for the job? Do you know what I mean? Because if you're sitting in a room in a business meeting and all these things, like you're director of a company, like surely you should know what they're talking about. And if you don't know what they're talking about, that means you're not qualified. And if you're not qualified, then why did you have the job? That's where my mindset is in one way. I just wanted to explain that.
That's how I've sort of gotten away from that, like imposter syndrome. I just ask the questions. I'm not embarrassed.
I think that's good advice in general, whether you agree or disagree about how she got the job or whatever. I think it is good advice. Like if you're ever feeling imposters, to just ask, and you don't necessarily have to know everything, I guess, but then it's like some basic stuff, you know, that you should know.
Creative director was mentioned, and I was like, that's the only one I want. I don't want anything else. I don't want to be head of any other department. Creative director is my role, and if not, then we'll just carry on doing what we're doing, or we'll see. And Fran worked on it with Emma, and they spoke, and it was about 6 months in discussion. And then Fran rang me. I was in my car, and she was like, we've got it. You're going to be the creative director of Pretty Little Thing. And it was a crazy moment. I screamed down the phone. I was like, oh my God, like this is wild.
You know, I can't really say she got the job. So whether she's earned it at this point or not, I guess is not really relevant, is it?
I worked with them way before Love Island. I've worked with PLT now for heading on 6 years. Wow. They were one of the first businesses, one of the first fashion companies that gifted me when I had about 11,000 followers on Instagram. So we've believed in each other from the very start. So it was just such an organic movement for me, like just to in that business. And
I think another thing as well is that it's connections. Having good connections with people and with the right people will take you to positions that you're not necessarily qualified for. And it's one thing to, you know, I'm just thinking of brands, right? You're working with a brand and you just do your job, give them the content, give them the looks and whatever, and then go out the way. I don't know if she or her manager, because she talks about how her manager is pretty much her saving grace. So maybe her manager is really, really good at having these connections with people, right? It's like, okay, this girl really selling you, right? Having those connections, honestly, it makes such a massive difference. Yeah, she didn't give herself credit for that, but I think that's one thing, either herself or her manager, that's something that they really did there, that having that relationship with the owner, Omari, I don't know his name, but the person who owns PLT, I think having that relationship there definitely played a massive role.
I'm so blessed to live this life. Like I pinch myself every day that I wake up and I never want to go back to my old life. That terrifies me because obviously, as I told you at the start, that ordinary life that I was living before, I never wanted that. I want what I had now and what I'm working on achieving. So
if you were to leave your house and just walk through a mall or down the street now, what's that experience like?
Of course she gets stopped a lot. I don't care for that, you know. Yeah, it's nice for people to know that. But she is quite popular. She's got like over 6 million followers on Instagram, and probably quite a lot of like over 1 million, I'm sure, on YouTube. I don't subscribe to her, so I don't really know. But yeah, I'm quite sure she does have quite a lot of following. So of course she's going to get stopped.
I do wish I could tell her to slow down a little bit with...
This is a part now where we're talking about advice you give to your younger self. I really struggle with that question because sometimes that's such a classic one. Oh, what advice would you give to your younger self? Let me see what she says first.
22, I don't want to get to 25 and and not have anything to look forward to when I'm 30 because I've done everything already. Fran's a really good person for that because she grounds me. Like, it's a really superficial example, but I'll use it anyway. I passed my driving test a few months ago and the only car I wanted was a G-Wagon. I was like, I'm getting a G-Wagon. Fran was like, no, you're not. I was like, why not? She was like, yeah, you can get a G-Wagon, but what have you got to look forward to when you hit 25? Like, she was like, get something a little bit, you know, underneath that, and then you can look forward to it when it comes. And I was like, no. But then I thought, actually, you're right.
Yeah, I think that is very, very, so honestly, it's so important. Having somebody like an accountability partner in life is very good. For some people, those are their parents. For some people, it's lots of different things. Having somebody that grounds you, I feel personally, is very, very important. Being able to be like, no, actually, you're not going to do that. And somebody that you respect enough to actually take their opinion into the fact that, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not going to do that. And I'm happy that she has that. Like friends, okay, yeah, like people talk about friends and they don't really explain the value of those friendships, right? And this is one of them for me. Even family as well. Like, I feel like people can be, I keep repeating myself, but people are so threatened by money that when they're around somebody who has a certain success, they don't know how to act, and then they let them go crazy. And that's how you end up with, like, you know, child stars who start to go off the trails or whatever, because they don't really have somebody who is like, sit your ass down, basically. Obviously that's not what her manager's done with her, but it's been able to tell her, okay, just take a beat, you have time to get your G-Wagon. Maybe you can start with a Range Rover. That's a nice problem to have, isn't it? So yeah, I thought that was really good.
You need to just always go for the biggest thing. Like, work towards these things, have things to look forward to, because I'm only 22. Like, I'm so young and I've got so much to work on and look forward to, and I don't want to rush things. And I would tell my younger self, slow down on the filler, slow down on moving to Manchester maybe when you couldn't afford it, slow down on worrying about trying to get Instagram followers, and it's just, everything will come, when it's meant to.
That is really good advice. I don't know, I want to stop there, but I feel like there's more coming.
Do you feel like you are enough now? Like you've achieved enough and you've done enough, and to be
of course you're
happy,
no.
do you feel like you're enough? Will it ever be?
I don't know, maybe not. Maybe if we ever revisit this and I've got more followers and more money and a better house or whatever, I'll still be saying it's not enough. I probably will be. But maybe I need that. Maybe that's like the recipe to making me the way I am and making me different to the other Love Islanders and the other influencers. Maybe it is because I'm hungry.
I don't know. There's always, I feel like, oh my God, like you can never ever have everything. So wanting more doesn't ever end. And that is a good thing, because that keeps you striving for the next thing and keeps you motivated. But yeah, we talked about that, so I don't want to keep repeating myself. I'm conflicted, and I think she is conflicted as well. When does it end? And I guess no one will ever know, really. I do wish her all the best. She does seem to have, at 22, I say that like I'm so much more older. I'm 3 years older than her, or 2. Yeah, 3 years older. So yeah, at 22, she does seem to have her head screwed on. And yeah, it's so interesting. It's maybe slightly shady that she's like, oh, that's what makes me different from the other Love Islanders. I'm like, oh, shade. But yeah, she is different from the others, and she's done so much more than most of the other guys. Financially, we have to make that difference, because money is what? Money isn't everything. That is the end of this video. I do hope that you can still see me. It is getting very dark. If you got to the end of this point, let me know if you noticed a difference in the lighting from the start to the end. I don't have a ring light or anything, so I am filming with natural lights, which I have run out of because the sun has set. Okay, anyway, thank you so much for this video, and I will see you somewhere in this space sometime soon. Bye bye.